Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really significant and frankly quite somber topic. We've got a stack of sources here.
Yeah, articles, some high-level analyses, official reports.
Exactly. And they're all focused on one specific event from 2025 that, well, it really shook things up. We're talking about the assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk. So our mission today, it's a serious one. We're not just recounting the tragedy. We want to pull out the core insights from these documents. We need to get a handle on what this single act signals about the health of U.S. democracy, how it's maybe accelerating political division, and, whether our civil norms can actually withstand this kind of strain.
It's a critical question.
We're giving you the deep analysis on what feels like a real turning point.
And what's striking, looking through all this material, is the consensus. Analysts seem to agree. America's crossing some kind of line here.
A threshold.
Yes, a threshold. The reports, they consistently frame this not as just, a random terrible crime.
Right.
But it's a profound signal. A signal of systemic political risk.
So the core question the sources are asking is, what now?
Exactly. Can the system adapt? Or is this level of violence becoming, well, the new expectation, the new normal?
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with the event itself, the timeline, just the brazenness of it.
Yeah.
According to the reports, Kirk was speaking publicly, Utah Valley University.
An open event, publicized.
Very public. And he was targeted, shot by a sniper while he was actually addressing the crowd.
It seems calculated, doesn't it, for maximum impact, maximum fear and publicity.
Absolutely. And the reaction nationally immediately after, just combustion.
Instant.
Reports detail this huge wave of national outrage, which you'd expect.
Of course.
But the sources also note the almost immediate start of these intense political blame games.
Yeah. A sign of the times, perhaps?
A true sign of just how fractured things were. And then obviously wall-to-wall media coverage.
Just saturated. And, the aftermath is where the deeper political meaning really starts to emerge.
Right.
If you connect it to the bigger picture, the polarization. Look at the memorial service.
Right. The sources mentioned the scale of that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Estimates of over 90,000 people attended.
Yeah.
Just think about the logistics, the emotion of that.
90,000. Wow.
And the sources really emphasize how that massive crowd basically transformed what should have been, national mourning into an immediate, enormous political rally.
So the grief itself was politicized right from the start.
Instantly. The speed at which he was sort of claimed as a martyr and that martyrdom turned into political fuel, the sources suggest that speed was, well, maybe unprecedented.
And that speed just accelerated the division, I imagine.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Analysts noted it created this sudden, really deep split in public opinion.
How so?
Well, one side saw him purely as a martyr, a victim of political hatred aimed at his specific views. But the opposing side, almost immediately, framed him as a politicized victim. Someone whose tragedy was being explicitly leveraged, to fuel the political machine.
So the narrative conflict was cemented right away.
Right away. No time for nuance, it seems.
But, and this is important, the sources really stress, don't they, that we can't see this assassination in isolation.
Absolutely not. It's presented as maybe the most visible peak of a rising pattern.
A pattern of political violence already being documented in 2025.
Yeah, the sources cite specific examples. Things like recent organized attacks on ICE facilities.
Okay.
And just a general dangerous increase in threats targeting activists, public figures.
And that's across the political spectrum.
That's what the reports indicate, yes.
Yeah.
Not just one side.
So what's driving this? Historically, analysts often look for violence, mainly from one extremist wing.
Right, but the sources point to something potentially shifting in the landscape then in 2025.
A shift.
Yeah. One report in particular, it drew on data compiled by, I think it was the Washington Post. It noted a measured increase in left-wing attacks happening specifically in 2025.
Okay, that's significant.
It is. And to be clear, the analysis tries hard to stay impartial. It's not about assigning moral blame.
It's about understanding the mechanism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It suggests drivers like, perhaps, the perceived impunity of decentralized online organizing.
Right.
And the radicalization happening in those online echo chambers from both sides.
And that online anger spilling into the real world.
Precisely. into physical violence.
And the practical impact of that trend, for you listening, it's pretty immediate.
Yeah, definitely.
This increased risk, this violence, it fundamentally starts changing how democracy works on the ground.
How so?
Well, the logistics of campaigning, for instance,
Mhm.
the freedom to hold public protests, even just the security you need at any public event,
It all gets heavier, more difficult, more expensive too, I'd imagine.
and more dangerous. Politics starts to feel like a physically hazardous activity.
Which is a chilling thought.
It really is. And this is where the analysis gets, well, truly systemic.
The deepest shock, the thing that jumps out from almost every report we looked at, wasn't just the event itself.
Right.
It was the ripple effect,
Yeah.
how it seeped into the core structures of democracy. We're moving from talking about isolated violence.
We talk about violence as an expectation.
Exactly. The core danger becomes political violence turning into just, a normalized cost of doing political business.
Rather than a shocking breach of the rules.
Yes. And that normalization, it signals a really profound erosion of civil norms.
The analysis goes beyond just listing threats, right? It talks about the collapse of, what did one report call it? Digital to physical friction.
Yeah, that idea that the barrier between online threats and real-world action is just crumbling.
And the sources detailed a rise of, like, retaliation speech becoming instant action, threats turning into violence very quickly, and maybe the most dangerous trend, the explicit politicization of justice itself.
What does that mean exactly? It means when the rule of law, the courts, investigations, when they're perceived as just another tool, another weapon used by whichever party's in power.
Then trust just collapses universally.
Completely. Nobody trusts the process anymore.
And that puts immense pressure on the key institutions, doesn't it?
Unbelievable pressure. We're talking DOJ, the FBI, even local law enforcement.
Right.
The reports basically ask, how can these bodies possibly investigate these incidents impartially when they themselves are seen through this hyper-partisan filter?
It's a catch-22. Were they already compromised in public perception, or did this event just crystallize that perception?
The sources suggest maybe both. Both sides are shown routinely questioning the fairness of investigations.
And that collapse of trust, it leads directly to this next conflict the analyses grapple with.
Which is?
The balancing act, between constitutionally protected free speech and the absolute immediate need for public safety.
Yeah. The age-old problem, but maybe amplified now.
Exactly. The sources raise these deep questions. How far can really harsh, hyperbolic criticism go before it becomes incitement?
Especially when it's amplified online, decentralized in those echo chambers we talked about.
Right. It's a line that the court's public safety officials, they seem to be finding it increasingly blurry and volatile.
A very dangerous place to be.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift to the public reaction, the processing of all this, the narrative wars.
Oh, yeah. They kick off immediately.
The sources show just a head-on collision, right, between the narrative pushed by the left and the one pushed by the right.
On every single aspect. The suspect, the motive, the political climate that quote-unquote allowed it. Total conflict.
And what's fascinating, or maybe disturbing, is the role of speed in locking those narratives in place.
Social media.
Yeah.
The analysis points to it playing a really destructive role here, accelerating judgment.
How so?
Well, perceptions of guilt or innocence, who is politically responsible, where the blame ultimately lies. All of that got amplified and sort of solidified across millions of people almost instantly before the actual facts, the forensics, could even properly emerge.
So people changed their reality first, based on their politics.
It seems that way. The data came later. The political reality was instant.
And political actors, naturally, they jumped on this.
Oh, absolutely. They utilized that acceleration. This horrific event became instant political capital.
How did that play out?
Well, one analysis noted how some groups effectively used it to rally their base. Shared grief, shared anger, driving unity.
Okay, makes sense.
But conversely, other actors used it to actively sow fear, to push this highly charged idea that the other side isn't just wrong, they're fundamentally dangerous, willing to use violence.
Which just feeds the cycle.
Exactly. And underpinning this whole narrative battle, disinformation.
Ah, the ever-present issue.
The reports really emphasize the corrosive role of manipulated content, deepfakes.
Any specific examples mentioned?
Yeah, things like manipulated photos related to the shooter's background, contested deepfake videos, all widely shared.
Trying to shape the story about location, motive, political ties.
Right. And when the basic facts are constantly up for grabs, constantly debated.
Then any kind of shared objective reality just vanishes.
which only fuels the polarization more. It's a vicious cycle.
So, looking forward then, based on these sources, where does this leave things? What are the potential paths?
Well, the sources sketch out a few possibilities. On the one hand, there's the more dangerous restrictive path.
Which looks like?
Tighten security everywhere,
Yeah.
metal detectors, surveillance, potentially massive crackdowns on spontaneous political gatherings, protests.
Making free assembly harder, riskier.
Yes. And the inevitable result of that, the sources suggest, is deeper societal polarization. People retreating into their own protected ideological bunkers. More isolation.
Okay, that sounds pretty bleak.
It is. But the materials also discuss more constructive paths,
Mm-hmm.
particularly around potential reforms, legal structural changes.
Like what?
Well, proposals for new laws.
Mm-hmm.
Things like specific gun control measures around public events may be creating protected political activity zones.
Interesting.
But they also talk about the much more controversial idea, enacting some form of political extremism laws.
To tackle radicalization before it turns violent?
That's the idea.
Oh.
But, and this is crucial,
The sources flag the risks there, right? Huge constitutional risks.
immediately, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The analysis points out these proposed extremism laws run into massive problems, especially with the First Amendment.
Free speech concerns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making them incredibly difficult, maybe impossible to enforce, without seriously infringing on civil liberties. Several constitutional scholars cited in the reports make that point very strongly.
So a very tricky path.
Very. And yet, there is also a glimmer of something more optimistic presented.
Oh, what's that?
The possibility of what they call a civic awakening.
A civic awakening.
Yeah, the scenario where the sheer shock of this kind of violence actually forces the public across the political spectrum to demand a change.
A cooling off of the rhetoric.
A cooling off, yes.
Yes.
And actively advocating for stronger shared civil norms. Norms that actually transcend party lines.
Is that realistic, though?
Well, the sources suggest it requires constructive action from citizens themselves to make it happen. It doesn't just emerge on its own.
So what kind of action are we talking about?
Things like prioritizing peaceful activism, really promoting awareness about the dangers of online radicalization, how echo chambers work, and maybe most critically, pushing for genuine institutional reform.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure our key democratic bodies, DOJ, FBI, courts, can regain trust, be seen as impartial again by everyone.
A tall order.
A very tall order, but perhaps the only way forward. So if we summarize this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it was clearly more than just an awful isolated tragedy.
Right.
It serves as this critical turning point, or maybe a revealing moment for the nation, exposing these deep systemic fractures in political trust, in civil norms, fractures that actually predated the event itself.
So the core choice for America coming out of 2025, as presented in these sources, seems to be what?
It boils down to this.
Yeah.
Will democracy just be battered, maybe consumed by the shock of events like this? Will violence become normalized? Or is the system resilient enough? Is it capable of healing itself through real institutional change and, well, that civic renewal we talked about?
That really is the question.
And I guess I'll leave you, the listener, with one final thought to reflect on. It's a question drawn right from the heart of the debate in these sources.
Okay.
Is this level of political violence, this measured increase we saw, is it truly something new, something unprecedented in American history? Or has the collapse of that digital friction, the rise of hyperpolarization, has it simply reveals a capacity for political violence that was maybe lying dormant just beneath the surface all along?
Something to definitely think about.
Reflect on that as you move forward.